All right, so welcome. Today is Monday, November 11th. My name is Councillor William Riley. I'll be the chair of tonight's meeting. Before we kind of get into things, today's a special day here. I'm going to just ask members around the Horseshoe, members in the gallery, and those who are watching at home to please stand up for a moment of silence for our fallen soldiers. Okay, thank you. Well, good evening. As I mentioned, I'm Councillor William Riley. I'll be the chair of tonight's Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting. I do have to make comments that comments can be made for members of the public for a matter that is on the agenda by advising the chair during the request to address an item on the agenda section. The public may also submit written comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting for consideration by the committee. Comments received after 4:30 on the day of the committee meeting will be considered at a following council meeting. Comments submitted are included in the public record. This meeting, for those who are at home already know this, but this meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded and will be available on the township website and social media. So at this point, I'm going to read the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being a part of the Niagara region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, the Haudenosaunee, and Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the regional municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. So at this point, I'm going to look around the Horseshoe here to see if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest and or conflict of interest. Not seeing or hearing any. We have a public meeting tonight, so we will kind of jump right into the public meeting. It is 5357 and 5377 Echo Road, file number 1601-011-24, and it's also highlighted here, Brad and Kimberly Killens. So I will move forward to my public meeting portion. All right, so this public meeting is to consider an application for a zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Agent Ethan Lemon, Bradley and Kimberly Killens, and NGF Property Inc., Upper Canada Consultants, property address 5357 and 5377 Echo Roads, file number 1601-011-24. I must state that the Planning Act requires in Section 3412 and Section 39 that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, Council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the application. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by Council in their consideration. I must also state, in accordance with the Planning Act and the minister, the applicant or specified person, public body or registered landowner of any land to which the bylaw amendment will apply, who made oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to council prior to the adoption and or passage of the bylaw, appeal the bylaw amendment to the Ontario Land Tribunal. I wish you guys could see what I have here. It's like one giant paragraph with not one period in there. So it's a mouthful. So hopefully you're able to catch that. I do have to ask the clerk if you could please advise the method and dates of notice was given to the public.
Proper notice was given by way of email circulation to agencies and mail circulation to all residents within 120 meters of the subject property on November 11th, 2024. Public notice was also posted to the subject property, the township website, and the township administration building on November 11th, 2024.
Perfect, thank you. I'll ask Senior Planner Susan if you can please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw matter.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, members of committee and council, and those in the gallery. This application is for the zoning amendment, of which is a condition of consent, which was conditionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment on October 30th of this year. The consent application is to sever 5 acres of farmland from 5357 Elko Road owned by Bradley and Kimberly Killens, and to have the land added to the adjacent commercial and agriculturally related uses located at 5377 Elko Road, which is home to Ontario Agra, Anthony's Excavating, and Coors Rentals. The expansion is to allow for additional outdoor storage space to adequately meet the inventory storage needs of the agricultural equipment and drainage materials used for septic water systems, the business, and the associated operations. This application will serve to make the necessary changes of the zoning for the retained lands, that being 5357 Elko Road, whereby the severance will create an agricultural lot that does not meet the minimum lot area requirement of 40 hectares. The new lot area, after the proposed severance is completed, would result in a 30.65 hectare lot. That is a deficiency of 9.35 hectares. And this site will have a site exception to recognize that. All other agricultural zoning regulations are satisfied. The application will also make the change to the benefiting lands, that being 5377 Elko Road. And the additional 5 acres of land will be merged and to be zoned agricultural related, and not the service commercial C3 zone of which the applicant applied for. The severance and the expansion to the business is to be limited to agricultural uses and not for commercial uses, of which the C3 zone would provide a number of commercially related options. So the purpose is to keep non-agricultural uses to a minimum of which the AR zone could achieve. The application will also address requested site-specific exemptions on the AR zone, of which would be a maximum outdoor storage space of 57%, whereas 10% is the permitted maximum agriculture-related zone outdoor space. The increase of this storage space is necessary to adequately serve the growing demands of the business and is a value added for the agriculture community that will not impose the operating constraints and will not have environmental impacts as per the environmental impact study that was provided. The existing business contained on the C3 zone will remain, and there are no changes to that zone. From the provincial, regional, local perspective, these agriculture-related uses and on-farm diversified uses within the prime agricultural area can be supported provided that they are limited to the minimum size needed to accommodate such use. The retained lands, although not 40 hectares as required by the bylaw, can sufficiently still be sized to function and operate farming activities and uses. The additional land to be zoned as agricultural related will not trigger the need for additional water or sanitary services, and the parking for the business is adequate in the current location of the C3 zone. It's been noted that no new entrances are required for this additional land. Please note that the expansion is also subject to site plan approval, and the stormwater management plan will be submitted and reviewed under that process to ensure no drainage impacts. Agency comments have been received, and the region staff has stated no objections, provided that the expansion area is conveyed and is zoned as agriculture related. The MPCA has commented and stated that the lands contains some regulated features, however, does not encroach on the regulated areas and offers no objections. The Municipal Engineering Public Works Department also reviewed the application and offered no objections. So I would like to take this opportunity to also invite Ethan Lehman from Upper Canada, who is a consultant that's been retained to provide any additional information and his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Ethan, just the middle one there. And then, Kevin, if you can help him get the mic on. Thanks. So whenever you're ready there, Ethan.
So good evening, Chair, committee members. My name is Ethan Lamont. I'm a registered professional planner with Upper Canada Consultants. Speaking on behalf of the proponent for the zoning bylaw amendment made for 5377 and 5357 Elko Road. So I have a short presentation just to give a bit of an overview, and then I'll be available for questions afterwards. So this slide shows the subject lands. As I mentioned, they're addressed as 5377 and 5357 Elko Road, located at the corner of Elko Road and Wellandport Road, shown highlighted in red in this slide. The property contains a building, gravel parking, and storage areas which support a number of agriculture-related commercial businesses. The businesses have outgrown the current property, and the business owner has acquired additional lands from the neighbors to accommodate this growth. The expansion lands that have been acquired are shown in the lighter red color on this slide. The intent and purpose of the subject zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the newly acquired lands to permit the growth and expansion of these businesses. So the primary businesses that operate on the property are Ontario Agra and Core Rentals. So Ontario Agra supplies drainage and liquid storage supplies like cisterns, septic tanks, culverts, and farm drainage materials. And Core Rentals rents out construction and farm equipment. And this slide shows some photos of the property, showing the building as well as some of the materials and storage on site that support these businesses. So this slide shows the proposed site plan for the expansion. So no new buildings are proposed to be constructed as part of the applications. The expansion is intended to be used for outdoor storage for materials and equipment. In a stormwater management facility, a pond is also proposed, which will provide quantity and quality controls prior to stormwater being outletted to the roadside ditch. So the zoning bylaw amendment is the second step in a three-part planning process. So the first step was the boundary adjustment, which I briefly touched on in the opening slide. So the boundary adjustment doubled the size of the subject property, which is 5377 Elko Road, by adding 5 acres of land. So the red highlighted area from 5357 Elko Road. The entire subject property is outlined in the yellow color there. The boundary adjustment was conditionally approved by the Committee of Adjustment on October 30th, and this zoning bylaw amendment application is a condition of approval of that boundary adjustment. So the second step is this zoning bylaw amendment application. So the application seeks to rezone the expansion lands to permit the intended uses. So the original property, shown as Part 1, currently contains the commercial businesses, which are zoned as service commercial, which permits these uses. The application seeks to apply similar zoning to the lands that were acquired from the neighbors, which are shown as Part 2, to allow for the businesses to expand on these lands. And the current zoning of this area does not allow for the intended uses. And the remnant lands, which are shown as Part 3, will remain zoned as agricultural with the site-specific lot area provision, as Susan mentioned. So subject to the approval of the zoning bylaw amendment, the final planning approval is the site plan approval process. So this is the process through which the technical development considerations are addressed, such as grading design, stormwater management, things like fencing, lighting, things of that nature. So that concludes my presentation. I thank you for your attention, and I can certainly respond to any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ethan. Appreciate that. We'll work through this and just maybe hang tight there. We'll see what comes your way, if any. All right, perfect. So that's that's not the applicant. If we could, but that's the agent. Is the applicant here to actually speak to this by chance? Outside of yourself there?
Just me, yeah, that's
okay,
correct.
I do have to ask this because with it being a public meeting here, I'd have to ask if the applicant or authorized agent, you're the agent there. All right, so then now we're going to go to members of the public here. Are there any oral written submissions from anyone present in the meeting, either in person or virtually, regarding the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? I do have to state that I must stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. If you are attending virtually or would like to provide questions or comments, you can do so by using one of the two options. If you're using a computer or smartphone, we ask that you raise your hand through the hand control section found in the Zoom options list displayed on your screen. If you've called in using a landline, then you just have to hit *9, and that will notify us that you would like to raise your question. Once you've been acknowledged to speak, we ask that you unmute your microphone, and then prior to speaking, we will ask for your name for the record. Kevin, I'll go to you first just to see if we have anyone virtually. Not seeing any. Any members of the gallery wishing to speak to this, have questions, comments? Not seeing this. Okay, so we will go to members of committee. Do any members of committee have any oral written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment? I do need to note that members of committee must make their comments now, as the OLT may not consider comments made at any other council or committee meeting. So members of committee, I got Mayor Ganan and then Councillor Chichak.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just really inquiring about the size of the property. We have watched over the years as that property has grown and become more and more and more crowded. So I am just wondering if, because there are various businesses on this land, if consideration has been given to this being the correct amount so that we don't have sort of that overcrowded spot the way we have right now. So
Yeah, so
whoever,
to
I guess Ethan
maybe?
Yeah,
perhaps.
certainly, through the chair to the question. Yeah, that has been taken into consideration. So the idea was to only do this one time. So essentially that has resulted in the size of the property that we have now. Obviously, there's going to be a site-specific provision on the remnant land, so any future boundary adjustment, they would need to come back and do zoning, and obviously that's not desirable. So the intent is that this would be the final expansion, at least in the near future.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Chichak?
So my question was similar, and it was to ask what the size of the boundary adjustment portion of this property was to be, Mr. Chair, through you to the planner.
Okay.
Through the chair, so the boundary adjustment piece was 5 acres or 2.03 hectares, which is almost exactly the size of the original property. So it effectively doubled the size of the property.
Mr. Chair, through you, I would ask, just a question, what would happen if we limited the size of that to no further expansions, given that it's in an agricultural area? What would that do to your expectation that this is the very last time you would be coming forward?
Through the chair, just so I understand correctly, are you referencing the future expansion would be limited or the current proposal?
No, not today. Not if this were to go through. Is this truly the size of the expected business in that area, in that particular site?
Through the chair, that is the expectation that is the size of the business. I mean, obviously things change in the future, but they would be subject to additional applications and further council approval. But as it stands, this is the application and this is the amount of land that they feel will serve their long-term needs.
And through you, Mr. Chair, one question more, and I think our staff will probably be able to tell us that. The hamlet of Wellandport extends down the road, but it doesn't get this far, does it? There's residential along 24
Yeah.
right now.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, it doesn't extend this far.
And how far to the south is that hamlet boundary?
I will have to come back. I don't have it in front of me, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't mean to take you off.
That's okay.
But I was just thinking that if we have residential coming down 24 and then there's this massive type of commercial site right there, I don't want to see rural sprawl, but on the other hand, I wanted to know how far the boundary of Wellandport went down 24. So it would be incongruous to have the two. And that's what I would like to know, if possible, before we put this forward as approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the committee? Councillor Broderick?
Thank you, through you, Chair, to Planner Smith. Smythe or Smith?
Smythe.
Sorry, Smythe. I guess to segue onto Councillor Chichuk's comments about Wellandport, how close to the Bismarck employment lands does that property fall?
Yep.
So in terms of.
Your microphone, please.
Oh, your mic's still not on.
Hello? Okay. Through you, Chair, to Ms. Broderick. In terms of the location, one thing to point out to committee and council is that there is the Fulton rural employment area, which we are working towards seeking employment opportunities. And this, I think, would be a more appropriate opportunity for if expansion to agricultural-related businesses or to that extent would be more suited versus Bismarck. Bismarck is a smaller location, and I don't think it would be conducive to something such as this. And I will be reporting on the Fulton RFP or successful candidate on the future project later this evening.
Thank you. Yep. Excellent. Oh, you just turned it on back on. Any other members of committee? Oh, Councillor Chichuk for a second time?
I apologize. It's not 24. My head was swimming in numbers, which I don't like when it's not related to dollars. So 24 is Victoria Avenue. This business is located between Bismarck, the hamlet of Bismarck, to my colleague's point, and the rural boundary of Wellandport. So
Correct.
I that's what I was cautioning about, is we seem to be boxed by two hamlets, and at this point in time, anything is a go, but there's a lot of businesses in Bismarck, and certainly Wellandport is an established hamlet within the boundaries of West Lincoln, so that was the point I was trying to get across.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any other questions or comments. I do have to advise that a technical report is being considered by the committee this evening. I also advise that once committee and/or council has made their decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, that if approved by council, a notice of its passing will be circulated with an appeal period. If you wish to be notified of council's decision, please ensure that you email the township clerk, Justin Paylove at jpaylove@westlincoln.ca. Anyone who's interested in observing council and or committee discussions about any particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus potentially miss the opportunity to attend an applicable meeting. It is suggested that you watch the township website for posting of the agendas to review the items that will be discussed at a council and or committee meeting. The agendas are posted on the township website after 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also posted on the township website for the public to view, so good to know for planning ahead. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you contact the clerk's office to advise of this request and include your email address as long as your mailing address and phone number. So this public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is concluded at the hour of, I'm going to use my phone here, 6:56 p.m. So that ends that public meeting there, and I see the clocks have been corrected, so that's good. I'm so used to it being like 3 or 4 minutes ahead. So I will pass this off to the clerk here. I'll bring my computer up there. Thank you, guys. All right, so I did realize when we kind of got into the meeting, I forgot to mention that Councillor Rayner had sent his regrets. He's unable to be with us this evening, but he assured me he'll be at the next meeting next week. So he as well, he's just got another commitment during this time. I'm going to move forward to see if there's any changes of items on the agenda by members of committee. Not seeing or hearing any. We don't have any appointments. Brings us to request to address items on the agenda. I'll go to IT first. Is there anyone virtually that wishes to address items on the agenda? Not seeing any. Members of committee, members of the gallery, is there anything on this agenda you would like to speak to or ask questions about? This is your time. Oh, someone's up here. Oh, Jared. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go to Jared. And so that's fine, but he can speak now. So Jared, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Perfect. So this is your chance. So I do have to read this because you want to speak to it. Let me just finish reading it for the record here. So 1 hour in total shall be allocated for this section of the agenda, and each individual shall only be provided with 5 minutes or so to address their issue. Some exceptions may apply. A response may not be provided let's try that again. A response may not be provided, and the matter may be referred to staff. A person who wishes to discuss a planning application or matter that can be appealed will be permitted to speak up to 10 minutes. And so at this point, the floor is yours, and let us know what part of the agenda you're going to talk to so we can kind of have an idea where your comments are going.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was hoping to speak very briefly to item 10.1 on your agenda.
Thank you. And again, just for the record, could you just state your name? We don't really need an address at this point, but just your full name for public record.
Sure thing. It's Jared Marcus from Arcadis.
Okay, thank you, Jared.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to give a very brief update. Some of the information I'll say here is already in your staff report, but knowing some of the issues that have happened on the crossings development more broadly, I just wanted to speak to the extension report that's before you tonight. As you'll likely have seen, there's been activity finally on this site. It's been a long time in coming. Remediation work was started just a few weeks ago, and we haven't encountered any problems on the project, so we've actually concluded the remediation excavation works on site earlier than anticipated in the schedule. And we're now working on putting that record of site condition package together for submission to the ministry. Even though we are a little bit ahead of schedule, it is quite late in the year, so site servicing is not projected to start until March or April, and then we're hoping for foundations to begin May, June timeline, and summer full speed ahead with construction of the project. And hopefully this 1 year extension is the last time you'll see us before we get this project started. So did just want to give that update, knowing that there's been some concerns about the other first phase of this project, and let you know that we have everything finally started on this project.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Is there anything further you'd like to add to that?
We've read the report before you. There are some changes to the conditions of approval, but we don't have any concerns with those, so we're happy to see this report approved tonight. Perfect.
Thank you. And assuming there's nothing else, if you could just lower your hand there, that would be your virtual hand there. That'd be great. Awesome. And if you could just mute yourself once you're done, that'd be awesome. All right, thank you. All right, so I will. Let's go back to the gallery one more time just to see if anybody else has joined the party here. Not seeing any. And again, members of the gallery here, it's your chance to speak to any item on the agenda. Not seeing any, so we're going to move forward to consent agenda items, which there are none. Communications, there's none, so we're motoring. So that brings us to our first staff report, which is item P5024, and it's a recommendation report PD 48 2024, extension of draft plan approval for crossings on the 20 North Condominium to Han Homes Inc., file number 21007208, and the recommendation is, and there's a few in here. That recommendation report, PD 48 2024, title extension of draft plan of approval for crossings on the 20 North Condominium, file number 21007208, dated November 11th, 2024, be received. And that the draft plan approval for crossings on the 20 plan of Condominium North be extended for a period of 1 year, set to expire on December 12th, 2025. Subject to the conditions of approval included as Schedule B to this report. And 3, that council deem the modifications to the conditions of approval found in Schedule B to be minor. And 4, that a notice of extension approval be circulated to relevant agencies and departments. So I will need a mover and seconder for that. I got Mayor Ganan and I got Councillor Bradrick. Any questions or comments? This is your chance. Not seeing or hearing any, I'll go to the clerk to bring up our vote here, which is just on our screen. It's up, perfect. All right, so that should be just before you. And then once that's done, all right, and that carries. Thank you very much. So now we move to item 5124, and it is a recommendation report of a table item, request for Minister of Zoning for Urban Boundary Expansion Municipal Comprehensive Review. And the recommendation is that recommendation report PD 51 2024 titled removal of, I don't know if I said the word removal, but removal of tabled item, request for Minister of Zoning order, also known as MZO, for Urban Boundary Expansion Municipal Comprehensive Review dated November 11th, 2024 be received. And that committee and council do now hereby confirm that the need, oh, my screen just ended on me. So I just got kicked out of eScribe, so it's okay. Where are we here? Okay, here we go. So let's try that again. Number 2, that committee and council do hereby confirm that the need for the minister's zoning order is no longer required, and the report PD 36/2022 may now be lifted from the table, as the intent of the table report has now been addressed. So I will got Councillor Chichuk and Mayor Ganan as the seconder. Any questions, comments? All right, I will just hold tight as I try to log back into eScribe so I can participate in this. All right, I'll just go to you just bring it up for everybody else. We don't need to hold up everyone. This will take me a minute for some reason. So. And that carries. Excellent. Good old technology here. Here we go. All right, we'll go to my backup. All right, so that brings us to item P5224. It's a recommendation report, PD 53/2024, application for zoning bylaw amendments for 739520 Road. Just making sure I'm not skipping ahead here. And the recommendation is that recommendation report PD 53/2024 titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment for 739520 Road, file number 1601-00424 Robbins, dated November 11th, 2024, be received. And that no further public meeting is required for consideration of this bylaw in accordance with section 3417 of the Planning Act. And 3, that the application for zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Ross Robbins on behalf of property owners Jeffrey and Evelyn Duck be approved in accordance with the attached zoning bylaw amendment with the site-specific regulations, and that council authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the necessary bylaws. So if I can get a mover and seconder, Councillor Trombetta, Councillor Chichuk is a seconder. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. I'll go to the clerk to bring the question or the vote forward. And that time it works for me. Excellent. And that carries. There we go. Our motor now. Okay. So now this brings us to a recommendation report, PD 54/2024, housekeeping bylaw amendment number 8, file number 1601-00524. The recommendation is that recommendation report PD 54/2024 titled Housekeeping Bylaw Amendment Number 8, file number 1601-00524, dated November 11th, 2024, be received. And that the attached draft zoning bylaw amendment housekeeping item 8 be approved, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the bylaw. And 3, that no further public meeting is required for consideration of this bylaw in accordance with section 3417 of the Planning Act. If I can get another mover and seconder, got Mayor Ganan, Councillor Broderick. Any questions or comments? All right, these reports are pretty self-explanatory. I'll go to the clerk for the vote there. Should be before you now. And that is carried. Thank you very much. So that brings us now to, okay. All right, so this is going to be a technical report. Technical report PD 52, technical report PD 52/2024 application of zoning bylaw amendment for 5357 and 5377 Echo Road, file number 1601-01124. It was just the public meeting we had. And again, this is only a technical report. Recommendation is that report or technical report PD 52/2024 titled Application for Zoning Bylaw Amendment for 5357, 5377 Echo Road, file number 1601-01124, dated November 11th, 2024, be received. And that a recommendation report be submitted to a future Planning, Building, Environmental Committee meeting once an administrative and agency review has been completed. So I need a mover and seconder for that. Councillor Chichuk, Councillor Broderick. Any questions or comments? Not seeing any. Can all address during the public meeting, so I'll go to the clerk to bring up the question. Excellent, and that carries as well. No, we're motoring. All right, so now that brings us to recommendation report PD 55/2024, and it's the Fulton Rural Employment Land Use Project Award. So this recommendation report is that recommendation report, PD 55, 2024, titled Fulton Rural Employment Land Use Project Award dated November 11th, 2024, be received. And that the WSP Group, Inc. be retained to complete the Fulton Rural Employment Land Use Project as outlined in RFP 2024 PD02. Yes, that's all I have at the end of this line here. So I need a mover and a seconder. I got Mayor Ganan and Councillor Trombetta. Any questions or comments? Councillor Trombetta?
Yes, through you to Mrs. Smythe, Mr. Chair. Is there a timeline on this at all?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. There is a timeline, so we are hoping to get council's support for awarding this project to WSP Group. Start probably the background information, providing maybe this before the end of this year, to fully commence in January, and hopefully get something in front of you by July or August.
Perfect.
Summer.
That was the answer I was looking for. Thank you,
No
Mr.
problem.
Chair.
Thank you. If you could just mute yourself, that'd be wonderful.
Oh, for
And
sure.
any other members of the committee? Not seeing or hearing any, so Mr. Clerk, I'll get you to do your thing. Okay, hold on, we'll hold the vote here. I just caught just
Just a
before it
real
came up.
question. It just struck my mind that if we were bringing this back forward in July, we don't have a lot of meetings in July. Is that what was just said?
We have like committee, we have a meeting usually in July, but what are you looking for?
No, I understand. I was just wondering why we'd bring something that had a hamlet boundary expansion to a community in the middle of July when people may not be focused because they're busy haying or on vacation.
So we'll go to our,
So if it's not June, could we do September?
go ahead.
It just struck
Through
me.
you, Chair. Yes, so to address that question and concern, so there is a phasing approach in terms of different stages. So there would be background research where that will be going to the adjacent landowner groups and a community charrette, if you will. That will not be done in the summer, that will be done earlier. What will happen is there's going to be the background information report provided, and then there will be some land uses being proposed, and the zoning provisions being proposed, and the schedules that pertain to the mapping for the Fulton employment areas. The intent is not to bring anything during the summer months, knowing that a lot of people will be probably taking vacation. So we will be sure that it is scheduled accordingly, taking into that account.
I just remember the last meeting about Mr. Chair, and I was hoping we would avoid surprising anybody by having it at a time that was
Oh,
inconvenient.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so the vote should be before you now. Mine disappeared on my screen. Okay, that carries. Gotta bounce screens here. All right, that brings us to, actually, that brings us to other items of business. So I'll go around the committee here to see if there's any items of business, other items of business, not seeing or hearing any. I'll just mention one thing here. It'll be sometime early in the new year. We'll be changing some roles here at council here. Since 2018, I was able to, when I first joined council, I was able to join through as vice chair. Mayor Ganan, who was Councillor Ganan at the time, was the chair of planning at that point. And then in 2020, I was able to take the reins and chair since 2020 to 2024. So as the committee knows, those chairs will be changing around coming the new year. And I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be chair in the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee area. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what my successor is able to do from the chair moving forward as we grow as a community, and wish her the best and look forward to seeing where we end up landing then. And I also mention that we have in the gallery here tonight, we have Councillor-elect Greg Maychek, who's in audience here as well, who's going to be joining us at the end of the month more officially. So it's good to see him, and we see some other faces as well, people who put their name forward, and it's really good to kind of see that engagement come out here and looking very, very promising for what the future has to hold here. So that being the case, not seeing any other comments or questions for other business, going to move to new business. Are there any items of new business? Not seeing or hearing any. We have no confidential matters tonight, so I will declare the meeting adjourned at the hour of 7:12 p.m. Have a great night, everyone.